Hey guys, it's Friday, so happy Friday to you. And today I wanted to hop on and just kind of talk about something that's been on my heart a little bit this week. And that's body image. And you probably saw my post earlier this week on my weight being up 3 pounds and how that probably would have destroyed me a year ago, even. And how it would have determined how I felt for the day, my motivation for the day, like where my energy levels were at, my confidence, like all of that. And I would let like this one tiny number there's so many rational things as to why your weight fluctuates from 1 to 3 pounds on a daily basis, but even as rational as we can be, it still tends to affect us. But it goes beyond that. It's not just about the scale and like a number on the scale. I really want to talk more about our body image in general and how we are viewing ourselves. And unfortunately, we are taught that we're supposed to look a certain way. We're supposed to be a certain size. We're not supposed to have flaws. And that's unfortunate because we all do have all of those things. And when it comes down to your body image, like for a lot of us, our body image is actually what defines us. And again, I have to walk that fine line a little bit because I always, as a nutrition and health coach, not a lot of people want to take advice from somebody who doesn't look the part. But that's not like that can't be the only thing that defines me. So what defines you besides how you look on the outside? Like, is it your hobbies? Is it partially your job? Like, is it your intelligence? Or like all of these? There's so many other things that should be defining factors and define who you are. So besides just how you look on the outside. But we tend to get really caught up in that. And so something I just want to I heard that I thought was really empowering, I guess, was at your funeral, what are people going to say about you? Because the likelihood of them saying she weighed 130 pounds and looked great her whole life, like, I hope to God that is not what people are saying about me at my funeral. I hope that it's about who I am as a person and maybe the impact that I was able to have on their life and all of that stuff, like, without ever once mentioning how I was able to look. And it's another thing for you to want to get to the end of your life and somebody say, she was able to keep up with her grandkids and she kept us on our toes because she was always running around and she lived a really healthy life. Like, that's completely different than like, yeah, she had really great thighs. Like, no, people aren't going to say that. Like, they're not going to talk about how much you weighed. I hope not. So I think that that's like just something to take into consideration when we're thinking about how this number and how we look like defines us. And it's just a matter of like, again, it just kind of like, what is defining you? You always think about this. Like, so why do people who are anorexic or struggle with eating disorders, like, think that they're fat? Because every single day they tell themselves that they're fat. And what you tell yourself every single day slowly becomes who you are. So what are you telling yourself every single day when you look into the mirror? I can tell you that, like, one thing I've always struggled with is that I've always had a pretty flat stomach, which great, yay for me, but I don't focus on that. What I focus on is the fact that I have always had really veiny, disgusting veins on my legs. Like, let me rephrase that. My veins are part of me. It's who I am. And I try not to look at them in that way, but that's like what we want to focus on. So I don't focus on these parts of me that I love. I focus on these parts that I am disgusted with. And people don't notice that stuff. Like, have you ever said to somebody, oh my gosh, have you seen like this? I hate this part. And they're like, until you pointed that out, I literally have never ever noticed that on you before. So think about that. Like, we're not defined by these things that we don't like, but that's what we always look at when we look in the mirror, when we see ourselves in pictures. Like, you don't look at yourself in a photo and you're like, oh my gosh, I look great in that photo. You're always like, ooh, I wish I would have stood up a little straighter, or maybe I shouldn't have wore that crop top, or whatever it is. Like, that's what we focus on. It's not like maybe your hair looks really great, or it was just a great photo and you were with friends and all of that. And so I just hate to see people focus so much on their body image, and like women who won't wear shorts because they don't like the way that their legs look, or they won't get in a bathing suit and play with their kids because they're so self-conscious of what other people are going to say about them. And I just want you to knock that shit off, because life's too short to worry about that. And, you may not be, it's okay to want to make changes and to want to change parts of you, but you can't shame your body into making those changes. So you might as well embrace who you are at the moment, and it's okay to be striving to be somebody, and make those changes, but just don't let it define you in this moment and stop you from doing those things that I think are just really important. So one of my biggest pieces of advice when it comes to this is starting to recognize how you're speaking to yourself daily. And so I always say, would you say that to your best friend? And even Andrew has caught me doing this. Like, I'll be like, I'll say something negative about myself. And he's like, hey, would you say that to your best friend? I'm like, no, I probably wouldn't go up to my best friend and be like, hey, you look really fat today. I've noticed that you're really bloated. Like, you wouldn't say those things. So don't say them to yourself. So if you find yourself doing that, stop yourself in that moment and find a way to reframe. Reframe that statement into something positive, into taking the focus off of whatever it is that you are negatively saying, and turn it into something a little bit more positive. And then there was something else that I wanted to talk to you about when it comes to this. Oh, the other thing is, these feelings that we have, so many of them they have come from somewhere in our past. Like, something in our past has brought these feelings of like a lack of confidence, like being insecure about some part of you or another part of you. So I urge you to start journaling, start thinking about those things, because I'm going to use this as an example, and I hope she doesn't mind. But I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and she was like, I'm always, I'll see people who are kind of like rocking some short shorts, or they're like feel really comfortable in their body. And I'm like, man, I wish I was like that, because I tend to be very insecure. She's insecure about being in a bathing suit, different things. And I was like, yeah, we talked about how maybe that was stemming from something in her life. And she said, now that I think about it, like, one thing my dad said to me one time, her dad said this, this was probably 40 to 45 years ago, but she remembers it very blatantly, was, it looks like your ass is getting fat. Okay, so her dad, like, God bless him, Grandpa's up in heaven, but he would never remember saying that. And he would probably look back and be like, whoa, why did I say that? And again, this isn't to place blame on your parents or anybody who said something negative to you, about you, or to you in your past, but there's a reason that my mom at 60 looks back and she can blatantly remember that comment, because that probably shaped a lot of her insecurities into what they are today. But the cool thing is that once you can find those things, and I recommend doing it through journaling, talking, whatever you got to do, but journaling is a great way to kind of get those things out. But when you can recognize what instilled that thought into you and what kind of helped shape that insecurity, then you get to move past it, because you get to say, sure, maybe that has defined me up until this point, and it had something to do with how I feel. But now I can understand that I get to move. How do I move through it? How do I move past it? Because it doesn't have to define who I am from here on out. Okay? So anyways, again, happy Friday to you guys. I just wanted to touch base on some of that stuff because I've been feeling it lately, and so you all are amazing, and the next time you look in the mirror, I want you to remember how much of a badass you are, and keep trucking. All right, we'll talk soon.